How is everyone doing? I'm Nini FC, this is Blue Lions TV. Welcome to the match review of our semi-final win against Tottenham. In today's match review, I'm going to be talking about Emerson's performance because of course I am. I'm going to be talking about the lack of execution in this team and why it's really putting a lot of unnecessary pressure on Sarri and his system. I'm going to be talking about the awful refereeing performance as well, plus many more things, so bear with me. But before I get into anything, smash that like button, help me get more than 500 likes for today's video, and press the bell notification button if you haven't already to stay tuned to all things Blue Lions TV. But anyway, you guys, starting with the lineup, and one of the major surprises was that Emerson started the game. Now, in my opinion, I had a feeling that Emerson would play in this game because earlier on, obviously, during the last defeat against Arsenal, Sarri was very vocal and critical about the players of the team, questioning their desire and their motivations. And obviously, he said that he would be making changes to really rectify this issue. So it was no surprise that there was no false nine and Emerson was going to start the game. Now, I'm going to touch upon Emerson's performance later on in this match review, so bear with me. And I guess another surprise was Barkley starting the game over Kovacic, and it's quite frustrating when it comes to Kova because he's still not fully fit. And it's no surprise because the guy still can't play more than 60 minutes of a game. And it's putting a lot of pressure on Barkley, and in my opinion, I don't think the guy needs it just yet. But again, I'm going to be talking about Ross Barkley later on in this match review. Getting Spurs out the way now, when it came to their tactics, well, they didn't have any of their major attacking players. There was no Kane, no Ali, no Son, he's away with his international team. And Spurs really suffered for this. They had no pace in behind, there was no aggressivity in the final third as well, and it was really easy for us. It really was. We had nothing to worry about. Now, in my opinion, I feel like we were the best team in both legs. Even in the first leg, they had their key players, but we still outplayed them. But with Spurs, even though they're very good, they have their limitations. And it's natural that if a team loses their best three attacking players, they're really going to struggle to create many chances. And I feel like we had a lot of confidence from this because we didn't have to worry about any counter-attacks in behind. And we were constantly able to bypass their press and get at Spurs. Now, all Tottenham could do was keep their shape and defend very deep. Eric Lamela would play closer with Llorente, and their game plan was, let's use those very direct passes straight to Llorente. Hopefully he holds the ball up and brings the rest of the team in the game. But with Eriksen, without his normal passing options in the team, he didn't have much of an influence in this game. Of course, he showed some great individual abilities throughout the game, but consistently, he didn't really impact it as much, and that's what really helped us. But the major thing about Tottenham was the fact that they couldn't really press very high and without the aggression they normally have, and that really helped us when it came to building up from the back and really dominating in midfield. Now, moving on to us, one thing I liked today was our wide play. Now, is it really a surprise? No, because Emerson was playing. I've been saying this time and time again. He has very good attributes that can really complement this team, and I really think we saw it today. Those constant runs in behind where he stretched the play, he was very wide as well. His link-up play was very good as well. I feel with Emerson that during the first 10 or 15 minutes, he was kind of nervous, he kind of played within himself, but as the game went on, as he got more of the ball, and as he got more trust from his teammates, you could really start to see the potential of the player. And I'm sorry, after this performance, it was Emerson's best performance for us in the Chelsea shirt. He showed us everything that we need down the left-hand side. And one thing I liked in particular the most was how quick the play was down the left-hand side. It wasn't stagnant. It wasn't one-dimensional. It wasn't predictable. There weren't any stupid infield runs from a particular Marcus Alonso. There was nothing like that. And the beauty of Emerson stretching the play, attacking his players, getting down that line meant that Hazard didn't have to push out wide as much. And because Emerson was occupying the Spurs defence, that gave more space for Eden Hazard to play and collect the ball in that half space. And for me, it's a very common thing. When you have a player like Eden Hazard that is in that top 3 in the world, if you get the best out of that type of player, It's going to boost your chances of winning something at the end of the season. Now, I have used this example before. Think about guys like Messi and Ronaldo. The entire teams were effectively built around those players, but look what they brought back to the team. Look how they really benefited from that. They helped their teams win trophies. And I think with how specialized players' roles are in football now, I think that you can get away with really building the team around one player. And hopefully Emerson is going to play more, so he can build that relationship down the flanks. And hopefully when Ruben comes back, and please, use Emerson, Ruben and Hazard together. That left-hand side will be so potent offensively. It's going to help this team out by a ton. Another player too that will get credit is Azpilicueta. Now, at times I felt like he was a yard slow, and I think that it's frustrating, but that's the player's game. But what I did like was the intelligence in which he picked the timing of his runs, because that was what really helped stretch Spurs. That was how we were able to get the spaces between the lines and really dominate in possession, and we constantly stretched Spurs midfields. But you guys, for me, today's game wasn't perfect. Now, I'm going to sound very cynical. Yes, I know we're through to the final. We're going to be in Wembley soon. But you guys know I have high standards. You can't blame me. I used to watch guys like Drogba, Lampard, Terry Cole. I've seen top players. I've seen what my club have played like with top players. And one thing that I just can't shake is the fact that there's no execution with this team. This game was really frustrating for me because of the amount of times we carved Spurs open, yet we didn't get a goal. And how many times has this happened? How many times have one of our strikers, missed the ball or missed an easy chance? How many times are players playing the wrong ball in the final third? How many times have guys slowed down the play in the final third? Or just being very unfortunate? It's ridiculous, and I feel sorry for Sarri. I made sure that I was looking at Sarri because I wanted to see the guy's reaction. And he was just like all of us. Whenever players were messing up in the final third, you could see how frustrated he was getting. And there's only so much a manager can do. He sets the system out, and it works. The team worked perfectly in this system. It's the execution. I kind of feel like we have to separate critiquing the system and critiquing the execution of that system. And there's too many players that just aren't going to get the best out of this. Now, certain players I'm not going to be too harsh with, because let's be serious, they're not first choice players. Looking at Ross Barkley, for example. Now, he played one or two decent passes, but again, they're decent. If you're playing for a club like us, in my opinion, every player should be able to make that type of pass, but he just isn't playing with that conviction or the confidence, constantly losing possession of the ball as well, not really linking up effectively with people in the final third. It can't keep continuing. It's frustrating. And when you have players like this, not only him, Pedro, awful today, constantly kept overindulging and us overplaying every single time, wasn't effective. His shots on goal were poor, no weight behind them. He didn't offer anything today. Even when Willian came on as well, yes, I understand, I sympathise with him, playing on the right-hand side where you need a left-footed player. Some of the passing angles aren't there, but it's like, come on now. We can't keep seeing this from Willian anymore. And in my opinion, and you guys know this, I'm not reactionary. I'm not the type of person that always says, okay, we have to replace this player with that and that. I'm not about that. But looking at this team, I've seen the limitations. This team isn't going to get better. All we can hope for is that there's going to be even more investment in the summer. We need a younger profile of player. Someone like a Pulisic is a good start. And why am I saying this? It's because these guys, can they really motivate themselves anymore? I don't think so. And in football, every 3 to 4 years, teams change their team. That's what you need to do to consistently challenge at the top. And we're not seeing that. I'm looking at guys like Pedro and Willian. How many times are we going to get performances like this? It's frustrating. Like, for example, whenever Spurs were able to create their counter-attacks, it always came because there was no pressure from the top. We know that Eden Hazard, for some reason to me, he's looking lazier when it comes to pressing off the ball. No one's getting tight enough. Giroud is skipping to players. Pedro and Willian, after a while, they just don't press anymore. And you see these massive gaps. I mean, for example, there were certain periods in this game where we were trying to build up from the back in the second half. But then when we tried to do that, we were losing possession of the ball. And you could see like this massive gap between our front three and our midfield. And it was quite clear when Spurs were pressing high, we need the wingers to drop deep, to become passing options. They didn't do that. And I keep saying, when players aren't fulfilling their duties in the team, it's going to cost everyone. Thank God Tottenham had no counter-attacking pace in behind, because I feel like guys like Aspie and Emerson might have found this game much harder, and they definitely would have found it harder if our wingers aren't coming back to help support them. But still, one player that never lacks any intensity, never falls off, is N'Golo Kante. I kept telling you guys, as the season goes on, he's only got to improve and get better. His application, at some point, you can rely on this guy. He gets tight, he gets close. As the game was ending, he was still the only player, still fulfilling his duties, tracking back Spurs' fullbacks. He constantly kept doing that. His ability on the ball is underrated. He doesn't lose possession. How many times did he win tackles as well? And he was influential. He was our best midfield player going forward. And that goal, yes, it was lucky, but it's a sign of a player that is willing to adapt his game, work on weaker areas, and improve his overall abilities. And N'Golo Kante is a world-class player. When you have a player like this, it's only going to boost your chances of winning something at the end of the season. But still, you guys, it's this lack of execution that really bothers me. And as the final whistle blew, yeah, I was excited for a bit, but I wasn't my usual excited self. I kind of felt like, you know what I mean? There was no excitement anymore. We can't outplay Spurs in 2 games and take this game to penalties. It's not good enough, and it shows you the limitations of the squad. Thank God Higuain's here. There was that chance that Giroud missed right at the end. You know that Higuain's going to finish that, and hopefully his introduction into the team is really going to help us turn these near misses into goals. Still, as we all saw, the match should go to penalties. And I don't mean to sound arrogant, but, you know, when you've got Jorginho with his little skip penalties, you've got Hazard, you've got David Luiz, they're 3 penalty takers that don't miss. And you look at Spurs' team, they've got no attacking players. Davinson Sanchez is playing as a midfield player. Who's going to take those penalties? Eric Dyer, who was a complete scumbag today. And hey, and that reminds me, I have to talk about the referee before I wrap up this match review. Atkinson, you disgrace. You disgrace. I'm sick and tired of seeing us getting no protection whatsoever. And this is why our season has been affected, because guys get small injuries. It takes them a while to get back. They get rushed back into the team. They don't get that match fitness there. And it affects us. I mean, look at Cover, for example. How many times were Spurs players allowed to get away with fouls constantly? And the irony was the fact that, of course, it was a Chelsea player to get the first yellow card, even though someone like Eric Dyer made 3 fouls in the first 15 minutes. A disgusting tackle on David Luiz as well. The amount of fouls, tactical fouls that slow down the pace of our game to try and hold us back as well. The referee allowed Spurs to do this, and it's like, if you don't take responsibility of this, you give an unfair advantage to the opposition team, because this means that, oh, I never got booked for that. That means I'm allowed to make another yellow card tackle. It can't keep happening. Oh, honestly, it's ridiculous. But you guys, you know, in the comment section, give me your thoughts and opinions. How did you feel about this win? Were you excited? Were you feeling like kind of You know, we beat a Tottenham team that weren't that strong, that really couldn't do anything against us. We dominated them, but the scoreline didn't reflect that. Let me know below. I'm going to keep it moving. Thank you for watching. I'm Nini FC. This is Blue Lines TV. Signing out.